and you're watching Acid Burn Say, and I post every Tuesday. And today I'm going to be telling you what I read in 2022. So my first book that I read in 2022 was How to Save a Life, which is about Grey's Anatomy. And it was compiled by a reporter, non-fiction, and it is all the interviews that cast have done, and it was compiled to make sort of a documentary about Grey's Anatomy and all the different things that have happened in it. The second book that I read was Chain of Iron, which is the second book in the Last Hours trilogy. As you can see, that's one of the things I don't like about these books, is I find wears away the imprint. So this follows James and Lucy Herondale, which are the children of William Herondale, who are the ancestors of the characters in the Shadowhunter books in the Mortal Instruments series. The third book that I read was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my first Taylor Jenkins Reid of the year, and it started everything. Hannah from The Clockwork Reader recommended this book to get out of a reading slump. Did it ever. I have never read so many books in my life, and all the books that are on this list are because of this book, which is set as a documentary who are based upon Fleetwood Mac. They are a group, and it is about their implosion while they are on tour, and it's a documentary. Wow, it's fiction. It's fictional. It's amazing. The fourth book that I read was The Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It was a tiny short story about two couples that realize that the other person is having an affair and get in touch with the partner of the other party, sort of figure out how to proceed and what to do. The fifth book is The Lighthouse Witches by C.J. Cooke, which is set in Scotland. It is about a girl who, when she's younger, her family all goes missing, all disappears in Scotland. Years later is called, when she lives in England, to say one of them has appeared. I wasn't too fussed on this one, but I did enjoy the twists and everything. I thought the twist was very good. Did I see it coming? I think I saw sort of it coming. The sixth book that I read this year was Open Book by Jessica Simpson, which is her memoir, which is basically her talking about her life. Jessica Simpson is a singer and entrepreneur. The seventh book that I read, I think, is the only Jodi picoult book I read this year. Salem Falls, which I think I've had for a few years. It is about a teacher that is accused of statutory rape and ends up in jail, and then he comes out of jail and moves to a new town, and the same thing happens again. He is accused of touching an underage girl. However, with Jodi picoult, there's always a twist, and it's always very interesting. My eighth book is Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella. It's a YA novel, and I think it's Sophie Kinsella's first YA, and it is about a girl who something happens and she goes into herself and won't leave the house. I think she has a meltdown, she had a mental breakdown. She wears sunglasses because she can't look people in the eye, and it's very interesting. I find the story of her brother and her mother much more interesting. The mother is obsessed with the Daily Mail and believes everything the Daily Mail, so I think it opens up with the mother throwing the computer out the window because the Daily Mail said something along the lines of computers are rotten children's brains, so she just threw it out the window. So No Time Like the Present by Michael J. Fox. This is another memoir. Michael J. Fox, of course, is Marty McFly from Back to the Future, but in this he is contemplating the fact that I think he finds out he has cancer in his spine, and he also has Parkinson's, so it's how he moves on after steps back because he was told not to fall back. I didn't realise at the time that this was one of a memoir that he had done. I didn't realise he had done other memoirs. So my 10th book that I read was my first V.E. Schwab book, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. As I'm sure everyone has read Addie LaRue. This is about a girl who makes a deal with the devil so that she can experience the world. Devil says, yes, you can experience the world, but he makes it so that no one can remember her. The 11th book is Shopaholic Ties the Knot. This is the third book in the Secret Dream World of a Shopaholic series by Sophie Kinzella, where she gets married, as you can probably guess. My 12th book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid. My 13th book is The Storm Sister by Lucinda Riley. This is from the Seven Sisters series, and this is the second book in the Storm Sisters series. As you can see, it's another victim of the Cassandra Clare book. The Seven Sisters series is about adopted sisters. Their adopted father dies and he gives them clues as to where they come from and where they were found. So the Storm Sister is set in Norway, and so she travels to Norway. She is also a sailor, and all the characters are based upon the Seven Sisters themselves from Greek mythology. My 14th book that I read was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which is a classic, and I need to read more classics. My 15th book is What Alice Forgot by Liane Moriaty, who I have never read before. A woman falls and hits her head in the gym and wakes up and she's lost 10 years of her life. My 16th book that I read this year was Gallant by V.E. Schwab, which is about an orphan who can see dead people and ends up being called to a place called Gallant. My 17th book that I read this year was Malibu Rising, another Jenkins Reid book, which is about four siblings that have a house party in Malibu. At the start of the book, you know the house is going to burn down, and it's set 24 hours before the house burns down. The 18th book that I read this year was Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer, which is Twilight set from Edward's point of view. Keeping on the Twilight theme is 19, Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick is Jessica from Twilight. This is her memoir. She is an actress and a Broadway star, and she is very funny. Number 20 is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This is a enemies to lovers, brothers best friends with benefits sort of thing. The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klein, I'm sure everyone's read, which is about an orphanage for magical beings, magical creatures. 22 is Such Fun Age by Kylie Reid. 23 is A Funny Life by Michael McIntyre, which is a non-fiction, and it is his memoir. Michael McIntyre is a comedian, and it is about what happens after he makes his big break. 24 is A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. This is essays, I think, C.S. Lewis made after the death of his wife. Next is A Deck of Omens by Christine Lynn Herman. This is the sequel to The Devouring Grey, and this is about a town that have 4 founders, and these 4 founders then protect the town from the Devouring Grey. They all have special powers. Everyone's into everyone, and everyone fancies everyone, and we don't care about sexuality in this book. Our next book is another Taylor Jenkins Reid, and that is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a book where our main character's husband goes missing and is presumed dead. Years later, she gets a phone call to say that he is still alive, but she has already moved on with somebody else. So it's about who do you choose. They both die at the end. This is a YA novel about that you get a phone call the day that you're going to die, and these two get a phone call to say that they're going to die that day, and so they can make the most of their lives. Number 28 is The Storyteller by Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl is a member of Nirvana and Foo Fighters, and he is a singer-songwriter. And this is his memoir, and it's very interesting. I'm definitely going to pick up his mother's book, because his mother sounds awesome too. Number 29, staying on the memoir, is Miss Memory Lane by Colton Haynes, where he talks about his life. He doesn't talk an awful lot of Teen Wolf or his marriage, which is all very understandable, which he explains in the book. It is some pretty hard stuff, so please look at the trigger warnings, because there is drug abuse, there is underage sex, there is body exploitation, there's so much in this book. It is just stressful and really hard to read. Yeah, he is so truthful in it. Next book is The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare, and this is the second book in the Eldest Curses, which follows Magnus and Alex. Number 30 is The Anthropocene, reviewed by John Green. This is a series of essays which is about the human race and different things that John Green wants to talk about. The easiest way to describe it. The next one is The Love of My Other Life by C.J. Conley, which is about a girl who gets in an accident and ends up in a different world with a different husband. However, this one, she talks to her other self and she writes letters to her other self. It's a bit weird. The next is How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. This is about a man who ages slower. I think it's 20 times less than the average person. It's very much a lot like Addie LaRue, and he has the same problems as Addie LaRue, just a little bit different. The not aging bit was very interesting. It's a tiny book. I mean, he definitely just gets to the point, Matt Haig. There's no fluttering about, nothing's there for no reason. So keeping on the time issue is The Time Traveler's Wife, which is about Henry de Tamble. His body makes him time travel, and he can't tell where he's going to end up or control how he leaves. This was a reread because this is one of my favorite books, and I decided to reread it because the TV show was on. Next is my first Emily Henry book, and that is Book Lovers. I read this while I was on holiday in August, and this is about two work colleagues who they end up in a small town and keep bumping into each other. It's very much like a Hallmark movie, and it progresses, but it is more depth than that, and they're both in the book industry. Next we have It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which is about domestic abuse relationship. It's this girl whose parents were in a domestic abuse relationship, and then she ends up in a domestic abuse relationship. 37 is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han, which is about a girl who her mother is best friends with another mother, and they meet up every summer, and the children meet up, and this is the first time Belly is pretty. And so next is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. This is my first Sarah J Maas books that I read, and these are a series of novellas that are set before Throne of Glass. Next we have The Shadow Sister by Lucinda Riley. This is the third book in the Seven Sisters series, and this is about Star as she looks for her family and where she came from in London. Next is One of Us Is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This is about a random group of teenagers that end up in detention, and one of them dies and they're all suspects. Next we have The Break by Mariam Keyes. This is a fictional book that is set in Dublin, and this is about a marriage, and all of a sudden the husband turns around and says he wants a 6-month sabbatical. His father has just died, so he takes that money and he decides to go off touring the world and leave her at home to pay the bills. Our next book is Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. This is me getting straight into Sarah J Maas and carrying on the series. Number 43 is You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is about a friends to lovers, two friends that go on vacation every year, but they had a falling out and haven't gone on vacation, and so she gets in touch and she tries to plan this perfect vacation for them, and it doesn't turn out perfect, of course. Number 44 is my first Stephen King, and that's Riding the Bullet by Stephen King. It's a short story about a boy whose mother ends up in hospital, and he travels to see her, but ends up making a deal with the devil. Number 45 is November 9th by Colleen Hoover, which is about a boy and a girl that meet on November 9th, and they decide that every year they will meet up on the exact same date and go on a date for the next 5 years, and then after that be together, because you don't want to fall in love before you're 23 apparently. Number 46 is Harry Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my last Taylor Jenkins Reid book of the year, and this is about Carrie Soto, who appears in Malibu Rising. She is a retired tennis star, and she comes back to show them that she can still whip their bums, that she is still the best. And it's set in the 90s. So lots of throwbacks. I mean, Princess Diana, I think, appears in it at one point. Next is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. This is a thriller, my first thriller of the year. Friends from Oxford who go up to the Highlands of Scotland for New Year's, and they end up having a New Year's party, but one of them dies at it. 48th book that I read. These are some of the books that I read for Halloween. Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irvine, and it is a ghost story about a school teacher that is chased after by the Headless Horseman. 49 is The Couple Next Door by Shari Le Pen, and this is about a couple who end up going to the couple next door and leave their child alone, and whenever they return, their 6-month-old baby is missing. Number 50 is another short story, and that is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that is by Robert Louis Stevenson, and that is a fictional short story that I'm sure everyone knows. Number 51 is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a series about Avery Kylie Grahams, who ends up inheriting billions and billions of dollars by Tobias Hawthorne. After he dies, he leaves all his fortune to her and disinherits the whole family. Number 52 is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is Colleen Hoover's first thriller that I know of. It is about ghostwriting. Number 53 is The Hawthorne Legacy, which is book 2 in The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. And this is about what happens next after the first one. 53 is The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the third and final book in this trilogy. However, there will be, I think, a standalone coming, because this book did leave it open for more books. Number 55 is Friends, Lovers and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. This is his memoir. Matthew Perry is Chandler from Friends, and this is his memoir about his battle with drugs and his battle with commitment. Pew! Number 56, another memoir, and it is How Not to Be Strong by Alex Scott. Alex Scott is a English female football player, and this is her memoir talking about her struggles as a mixed race woman in football and presenting, and what happens after football. Number 57 is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. And this is a Little Mermaid retelling, but instead they are sirens instead of mermaids. Number 54 is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is a YA fantasy book about the Knights of the Round Table, and it's set in our day. Number 59 is Babel by R.F. Kang, which is a fantasy book set in Oxford about immigrants and how silver has power when you put different languages and words. Number 60, this is where I get into my Christmas books, The Parisian Christmas Bake Off by Jenny Oliver. And this is about a school teacher who ends up over Christmas competing to be the apprentice of a great Parisian baker chef. 61 is Christmas by the Coast by Mandy Baggett. And this is about an English real estate developer whose grandmother dies, and she goes over to America, to New York State, I think it's the Hamptons, to help her grandfather. Number 62 is The Christmas Basket by Debbie McCumber. This is a nice Christmas stories with second chance romance. Number 63 is Cupcakes for Christmas by Kate Hewitt. This is a Christmas story. Has taken over her mother's bakery, and she has come up with this idea of the 12 days of cupcakes and is doing a different cupcake for the 12 days of Christmas. Number 64 is The Christmas Escape by Sarah Morgan, and this is about Christy and her best friend Alex who go to Lapland to visit Christy's aunt, that they don't know anything about. They just know that Christie's mother wants nothing to do with her, so they go to Lapland for Christmas. Number 65, my last book of the year, is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, which I finished on the last day of the year. I cannot describe this book in any ways. So yes, that was my 65 books that I read in 2022. Hopefully this video is not hours long. Thank you for watching. If you're still here, hope I haven't bored you to death. Please like if you like this video, and subscribe if you like my content and want more of my content. And comment with books that you think I should read this year, or if you've read any of the books that I have read, please, I'd like to know your opinions on them. Okay, well, bye, and bye, enjoy your day. Thank you, bye.